Uncle Tom's Cabin, The Sound of Freedom. What do they have in common? God's children are not for sale. Hey, welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's Alonzo Wayne with Truth on the Right, where we talk about everything political, social, everything in between. Listen, anything that you can think about, I'm going to talk about here on the show. Hey, thanks for joining me today. And today we're talking about God's children not being for sale. Little history lesson for you here. And going back to 1852, Harriet Beecher Stowe, she wrote a novel called Uncle Tom's Cabin. You might have heard of that. Now, at the time, of course, there was slavery here in the United States. And when Harriet Beecher Stowe wrote Uncle Tom's Cabin, it became the best-selling novel of the time. As a matter of fact, the only thing that beat out the sales of Uncle Tom's Cabin was the Bible. And the novel, because it was fiction, but the novel was based on some truth of the institution of slavery here in America. And it really changed everything. As a matter of fact, Abraham Lincoln, shortly after, met with Harriet Beecher Stowe, and he said this, he says, "So this is the little lady that's responsible for this great war," meaning the American Civil War. So as we move forward and we look at things like, say, Uncle Tom's Cabin and what it meant to here in America. What did it do? Well, the abolitionist movement of the United States at the time was a very small movement. But once Uncle Tom's Cabin became widely spread, the abolitionist movement or the anti-slavery movement grew like wildfire because of this novel, because people began to educate themselves on the horror of American slavery, of African Americans being held in bondage right here on the soil of the United States. And it changed everything. When the novel was, of course, written, as I said, in 1852, by 1861, we were fighting an American Civil War, and obviously the question of slavery was a very, very big part of that war. Now let's fast forward to today. Let's talk about the motion picture that was just released by Angel Studios called The Sound of Freedom, starring Jim Caviezel. If you remember Jim Caviezel, he actually starred as Jesus in The Passion of the Christ some years back. And I would say to you that the movie, The Sound of Freedom, is our modern day, 21st century Uncle Tom's Cabin. I'll tell you why. It's estimated that the sex trafficking of children is a business worth somewhere around $150 billion worldwide. And that is, if you took all the professional sports together, it still would not even come close to that. And it makes me sick, and it should make you sick that the left would come out against a film such as this. But why? Why? You know, as the credits at the end of the film, the credits at the end of the film say this, and this is sad, ladies and gentlemen. As an American, I find it sad and appalling that the United States of America, the land of the free and home of the brave, and God bless America, we are the biggest consumers of child sex trafficking. In essence, we as Americans, we're the sickest of them all. You know, you cannot have a market for something without first having a consumer. You must have a consumer in order to have a market. And the market is huge because the consumer base, sickeningly enough, is that big. You know, when we look back on slavery, say several hundred years ago, we think about how awful. We talk about it these days. As a matter of fact, the idea of slavery or human bondage has become pretty big business in the early 21st century now, and the impact on all those then and all those who are alive now, the cries for reparations within our country. And here's the important part to remember, that slavery now is bigger than slavery was then, 200 years ago, 300 years ago, you name it. Slavery is bigger now than it was then. So, my friends, I ask you, as we are beating the drum of African slavery of several hundred years ago, what are we doing today? What are we doing today about human bondage against our most vulnerable, our children? You know, where are our voices? Where are the outcries of today? Where are the marches? Where are the protests? Where are the demands for justice? Where are the soldiers who are willing to take up the banner, take up the fight? I'll say this. Other than the salvation of the human soul, the line between heaven and hell, eternity in one place to the other, other than that subject, what I'm presenting to you here today on this channel is something that I am most passionate about, and that is the exploitation of children, and you and I, in our job, in the protection of our children. You know, there are those who are on the front lines of saving these kids. I mentioned Operation Underground Railroad. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the guys who literally kick in the doors. They're not just the people who want your donations, who are spending it on some type of administrative fees. These are men who are going undercover. These are men who are being thrown to the ground and handcuffed in front of children because they can't blow their cover. And as one of them said recently, one of the hardest things that he does in his job is that when the police do bust through the door and throw everyone to the ground and handcuff them, he has to look those kids in the eyes. And the last thing that those children see is his face, as if he was one of those perpetrators. Yet all along, he's sacrificing everything to set them free. I urge you to support an organization like Operation Underground Railroad. I'm going to leave a description and the link to Operation Underground Railroad here in the descriptions. I ask you to check it out. Consider joining the movement. Become a modern day abolitionist, because, you know, being an abolitionist is not just for, 160 years ago. It's for right here and right now. For my children, for your children, for our grandchildren, for the children of our neighbor and our co-workers, for the kids out there right now who, as I make this video and as you're watching it, somewhere in this world are being exploited, they're being sexually molested, there are sex slaves, and they're dying from the inside out somewhere in this world. You know, on the back of this shirt of mine, there's a statement, and it's so powerful. It says, quote, "Until the children we say, hold on, we're on our way." It's up to you and I to send those folks on their way to save our kids. You know, we're the eyes and ears of our kids as well. But donating to an organization like this that are literally setting children free every day from bondage. God's children are not for sale. They weren't then, and they are not now. Let's make sure that they're not in the future. Alonzo Wayne saying thanks for joining me here at the channel at Truth on the Right. Hey, you want to support the channel? Check out the Ko-fi link down. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'm almost at 200 subscribers. I'm like this close. And don't forget to hit me up at truthontheright@gmail.com, as well on Twitter and on Facebook. And until next time, my friends, God bless.